Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Probably Private, and this time is about How I AI Hardware Edition. So you're here with me in my home in Berlin, Germany, and this is my little AI lab setup that I currently have and will hopefully be expanding this year. So let me take you on a little tour of my machines. Okay, the first machine that I built, which is this gigantic machine, I built in 2017. And as you can see, it's hardware from 2017. So it's kind of big, and I don't know if you can hear it, kind of noisy. But this is the machine that I built when I started doing adversarial attacks on deep learning systems. And what I noticed is the cloud compute at that time was way overpriced for renting out GPUs that were big enough to actually run the adversarial types of attacks. And so I built my own. And I'll tell you the specs. I'll share them all in the comments. But basically, it has Basically, it has about 16 gigs. It draws a lot of power because the machines back then and the GPUs back then drew a lot more power. And it cost me a little bit under 5,000 euros at the time. This was in 2017. I built it out. I used it to build some adversarial attacks. I used it also for some deep learning, fine tuning, and training that I was doing with some clients at the time. And yeah, it served me well. I still run some small workloads on this just to keep me aware of how to parallelize across GPUs. So it actually has two Titan 8 GB GPUs, and it has a bridge that connects them. That was at the time the best that you could get. Now it's obviously the technology has improved in how do we actually interconnect multiple GPUs. So I wouldn't recommend going with true small GPUs anymore. So let's talk about what I would more recommend if you're just getting started and you're setting up your first AI home machine and you, like me, want to maybe learn how to attack models. Maybe you're worried about privacy. So mainly I work in privacy and security in machine learning systems. And perhaps you have some AI ideas that you want to build, but you'd rather not transfer a bunch of your sensitive data to the cloud and build it there. Or you like the idea of tinkering with your own hardware. Then what I built last year as part of the Feminist AI LAN Party, which was really cool, is this little machine. Let's take a look at my very small machine. And it's very colorful, as you can see. And this I built last year, so 2024. It cost about 4,800 euros. And this here is a Phantom RTX, and it has 30 gigabytes. So as you can see, the size for the performance that you get is quite a measurable difference. And this one I also chose very colorful because I knew I was going to be taking it to the Feminist AI LAN Party. And I knew there we were going to invite students and kids. And I thought it'd be fun for me and for them if there was a rainbow colored tiny machine that was running machine learning workflows. So at the Feminist AI LAN Party, which I'll link in the comment, we served multiple LLMs at the same time via this machine, via VLLM. So I'll have a video coming up soon on VLLM. How do you serve for local connections? And share with you how we did that. And we had, I think at some point in time, like 15 people sending a request to the VLLM just on this tiny machine, and it went fine. Okay, so let's quickly break down the details of my small gaming computer that I built out for AI. We have my GPU, which by far is the most expensive part. That's the Gainward GeForce, and it costs nearly 3,000 euros. A fun fact, it's actually more expensive right now than when I bought it about 10 months ago. So there you go. I guess it just means don't try to time buying your GPU.
Just get something that makes sense for you, and it's okay to start smaller. Again, mine is quite large. It's okay to start smaller and decide after a while of using an external GPU server what actually fits your workloads, right? You can always invest more later. Then the next most expensive is usually your CPU, especially if you want to get a CPU that will hold its power for a while. So I got an AMD Ryzen 7 that has been working well so far. I got a hard drive, 4 terabytes, so that I could store locally some of the data sets that I want to use. That was 328 or so euros. The main board, which again, Lowell had to buy a different one than my original one, but this one I enjoyed very much, or have enjoyed thus far. But there's lots of different main boards, so look around. Again, I would focus on choosing your RAM, maybe even first, and then look what main boards fit both the CPU that you want and then the RAM that you want. And maybe make a decision there based on what's available near you and maybe what you like if you have preferences there. And that's my RAM. I got a rainbow dual kit, which I think cost a few euros more than the normal, just ones without light up. So your results may vary if you want yours to light up or not, but it's really only a few euros more or less. G-Skill is very well renowned in RAM. There's probably a few others that you can look at. Here's my power supply, which Corsair, I think it's both power supplies that I have on both machines, but again, you're going to have to choose something that works for your main board and something that works for your casing. So your casing, choose one that you like, or choose a big one and don't have to worry about ever running into my lovely problem, which you'll learn about later in this video. Cooling, look up the cooling that works for both your casing and your CPU. And finally, I spent a little bit on shipping. So in total, my entire setup was a little bit over 4,800 euros. Now, I know that's a lot. And so my question for you is, do you need a 3,000 euro GPU, or do you want to start with maybe a smaller one and work your way up? Again, if you buy and invest in things like your CPU and your main board and your hard drive, really swapping out the GPU later for a bigger, more performant one is not a huge ask. And then B, if you, like me, use this for your work, perhaps there can be some work budget for this, or perhaps this can be partially a business expense. So obviously that may or may not be up to you, but I just wanted to share these so that you have an idea of a starting point for thinking through building out your own if you haven't already built your own. So yeah. So if you're building your first AI machine and you, like me, are not a hardware expert, I'm not a hardware expert at all, I have some tips and tricks for you. So the first thing is to really think through compatibility, not all different pieces like it can seem, and I'm going to show you the whole specs of everything that I have. It can seem that everything should be compatible, but that's not the case. Even I made this mistake, so I ordered DDR5 RAM that actually didn't work with the initial motherboard that I ordered. And this is because there's like certain intricacies of some DDR5 RAM only work with some types of motherboard or mainboard. And so you just have to, it's kind of annoying, but you really just need to go through the spec sheet and check off everything. Okay, this is how much RAM I want. This is the fastest RAM that I want. And then match that up, make sure that it works with your main board. And same things with your power supply and other things like this. So just be careful with compatibility, or make friends with your local computer shop like I did when I built this one, because I went back twice. And get friendly so they'll make exchanges for you without a lot of problems. So think through compatibility. If you build a lot of computers and you have other tips on compatibility, please put them in the comments.
The second trip that I made back to the computer store was about sizing. So this case is really small. I don't know if you can see how small it is, but okay, let's make sure that our screws don't go loose. This is, I mean, I'm pretty small and it's my forearm size. So this is an extremely small case. That's what I wanted because I know I was taking it on the Deutsche Bahn with me and I wanted it to be small and portable and kind of cute. That's what I wanted out of this machine. So I ran into a problem where the power supply that I bought did not allow this size of a GPU because it's a pretty big GPU from just space wise. It actually didn't allow the GPU to sit and the cores to sit. I'll show a photo of the beauty of them coming together. But you actually need to know where the cores from your power supply go and make sure that there's obviously enough space. Or you just buy a way bigger case. So if you're not planning on transporting it, if you don't care about the cuteness of the size, you could just buy bigger casing and then have way more space and no stress about those things. And then the final thing that I would say is, especially if you don't build computers a lot, just make sure you have the right tools and make sure you give yourself patience. So let me show you some of the tools I had. Because I had to change the motherboard, because I'd rather use the RAM that I bought than the motherboard that I bought. I had some of the kind of glue removable. This is thermal paste that you use to attach the cooling unit to the CPU, which then gets clipped into the motherboard. So it's a pain if you have to remove it. Just be patient and kind to yourself and don't let the inner critic take over, but add some extra thermal paste remover and also higher quality than offered by the CPU thermal paste. So that's what I use. I also always have tweezers because they're useful and a little box to put extra types of screws in. At home, this is a wonder. Like, I literally just fixed my coffee machine with this kit. This is, I mean, you could do any kit, but it's just a kit that has the kind of smaller types of screws and different types of tool heads. And this, I think, is a lifesaver if you ever have to fix your own home appliances, like I do with my coffee machine broke and I fixed it. And then we have a magnetic project mat. So while you're actually working, you can have this ready to go. If I can get it out and show you, but you can have this ready to go. Actually, this one is packaged tight, so let's not worry about it. But it's basically a mat where you can kind of stick the screws. There's sometimes some tiny, tiny screws or other pieces, and you're working on them. And the last thing you want to do is you finally get something ready to go, and then you're holding it in place and you're looking around for where did that bolt or screw or whatever it is go. So this is my setup. I'd love to hear what additional questions you have. Again, not a hardware expert, but somebody that knows a lot of things about machine learning and privacy and security. 2, I want to know what's in your home lab. So if you've already got us started on local first AI, if you have a little bit of AI machine or an AI lab going at home, I'd love to hear about your setup, how you chose it. And number 3, definitely subscribe and stay tuned because I'm going to have additional videos. I also have some other machines back here that we're going to talk about, like my NAS, where I keep my photos, videos, documents, backups for my computers, and how I then get all this connected via my home network so that from the comfort of my desk, which is in the other room, I can, send an AI workload, use this machine, use sometimes this machine, and do AI at home. So I hope you'll stay tuned, and I look forward to hearing about your home lab setups.